Okay, this is Memoirs of Exhibit 8. And of course, Exhibit 8 is public information. Show me the money of the international anarchy and world economic treason. Without due process of the law, nor the combined jurisdictions needed to change the Constitution's 14th Amendment of equal protection of the law, all three branches went ahead and created, inflicted, and allowed the international case law and ethic changes. The U.S. taxpaying commoners funded and paid for as your get-out-of-jail-free cards. Now, Exhibit 8 has my undisputed financial statement, summarized financial track record. Later, reconfirmed via an independent appraiser's appraisals as spot on, and the government's very own former bank's affidavit proves beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, anyone is above the Constitution, above anyone else's rights of equal protection of the law, and above any rule of law without ever mentioning the word foreclosure. Now, anyone can post illegal foreclosure sales simultaneously on as many courthouse steps anyone so chooses and against anyone so chosen. Forcing anyone into filing bankruptcy to stop the illegal foreclosures, to salvage some of their excessive amounts of equities, which in fact will ruin your name and ruin your credit and or your future earning power. But at this point, you just have no choice. Especially against anyone whose undisputed financial statements, higher return on investments, prove the client's net worth doubled every 40 months. Now, these amounts were used when filing counter lawsuits to keep up with the doubling and the amount that it would be. With an excessive amount of $1 worth of equity versus 19 cents of indebtedness, the affidavit confirms I was in excess of $8 million and the indebtedness was only approximately 19% of that value. I was always diligent in making and reporting to the bank monthly operations and accurately compiling and filing all the necessary reports required by the bank on all the loans at the bank. The former banker goes on to say Jerry was never in default, substantially collateralized. I do not recall that Jerry ever missed an interest payment on any loan to the bank within the 80% loan to value required. Jerry's loans were adequately secured under underwriters' standards at that time. Now, you don't have to be the biggest nor the best, you just have to be the most efficient. Now, if you have the ability to prop up, make do, recycle, run your numbers, plan your work, work your plans, in the competitive world of trading land and cattle, you will do well. It was actually fun putting together the $6.6 million to only have it taken away by the bank's fraud. Now, if you do not have these abilities, you better find a better way to market your sustainable long-term investments. Remember, home run hitters sell tickets. Base hitters win pennants. Now, anyone can force anyone to pay for price-fixing appraisal that later was in fact 45% of what the fire sale of the federal bankruptcy court's ordered land auction sold for. If you're not any better appraiser than that, you just well quit. I agreed to provide the FBI with a copy of the price-fixing appraisal if the bank ever produced it, for the appraiser was already under another FBI investigation. Now anyone can racketeer fraudulent made-to-order RICO appraisals against anyone. Now anyone can RICO refuse to provide all documentation of RICO price fixing within any court of law, anyone so chooses, and against anyone so chosen. Especially anyone who breaches their fiduciary duty and lender liability against anyone so chosen, against any bank's own stockholders' values, against the Dodd-Frank Act, rule of law, and more, via refusing to count victim Artho's undisputed customary equities, under distress, calling Artho's notes due in 25 days, and that due to victims Artho's excessive equity, victim Artho would not qualify for a USDA $1.4 million loan guarantee. The evidence that in fact Artho did qualify for the USDA $1.4 million loan guarantee. The RICO felons exit strategy agreed to an April land auction. Evidence of an email confirming the bank's president's exit strategy agreement of an April land auctions contract. Evidence of the Amarillo News ad confirming the bank president's exit strategy agreement of the prior April land auction. Yet again, here we go again, attempting to change Artho's account number to the unknown account number of 16604114. Now someday I'm going to find out who that account number belongs to reduce Artho's retirement and net worth of $6.6 million down to $345,000 on December the 25th, 2017. Well, Merry Christmas to me. While under federal trustees' protection of the trustees' law that required by law, the trustee is to review all of Artho's filed evidence and to report such criminal activity to the U.S. trustee and to the U.S. attorney. Of course, the $345,000 was after I was forced to pay capital gains tax, forced into naively hiring and paying for more Bar Associates approved lawyers. Now, these are your get out of jail free cards. You just as well use them and take advantage of it while they're still in order. However, in order to form a more perfect union, economically, mathematically, and international, quad tam law and or champ parity law will prosecute, collect, and seize all economic traders' stock, all personal, domestic, and foreign assets, as funding, fines, retribution owed to the U.S. Treasury, the SEC, and the victims thereof. Place all economic traders under house arrest until deported into exile for participating in legalizing the international case law and ethic changes international anarchy as world economic treason. That will inevitably undermine and collapse world economies. Now, it's best to do this during peace times, accountability of corruption, like-kind retribution, as payment in kind, one of the fundamentals of Artho economics. Now, once the U.S. Treasury is paid in full, this will help offset a little of the $35.7 trillion that the overprinting of fiat paper monies, inflation, and overtaxation has got us into. Now, I didn't go to Harvard, but if they hire, that's $113,000 per man, woman, and child, plus the interest owed. And it's like 124% or 24% over the U.S. gross domestic product. So in other words, you're at more debt than you can produce. Now when this hits the fan, and it will hit the fan, when investors start running scared and say, look, you're already in too deep. And this, in fact, is repeating a world's history over and over again. This is the same thing that's happened before with other nations. It's nothing new, but just nobody learns. But when it does hit the fan, then comes the usual finger pointing, the rattling of sabers, and the inevitable wars and inhumanities inflicted by politicians' prior negative cash flow choices. Now, when you're on filedevidence.com, click on blog, click on page 3 for Artho Economics, chapters 1's cash flow, basic economic fundamentals to avoid wars in humanity. Again, mankind does not have to live like this, nor does mankind have to die out like this. Now is not the time for all nations' patriots to stick their head in the sand. We're all in this together. We all need each other. We all need each other for international trading partners so mankind's economies can prosper. Now, I was raised on the Amarillo newspaper that won the 1961 Pulitzer Prize for exposing government corruption. Now, some things just never change. Whose inspiration over the entrance of the Amarillo Globe News building has their patriotic mission statement engraved in stone by the owner, Gene Howell. And Gene Howell's statement reads, "A newspaper can be forgiven for the lack of wisdom, but never for the lack of